Hello everyone, welcome to Voxcel. In this video, we're gonna discuss section 3 of test 4, which is taken from IELTS GT book 20. We have already discussed section 1 and section 2 of this particular test, so this is the third one. So without further ado, let's start. So the title of the passage says how archaeologists made some exciting discoveries in southeast Turkey. From the title, it's quite clear that this is about some interesting or exciting discoveries in this part of the world, or if I am being specific, southeast part of Turkey. Like from the title, it's quite clear that there must be some kind of digging going on, because archaeologists, we know what kind of job they do. So it's about something they find related to past history, some ancient pieces of metals, maybe some kind of things that were being that were dug in the past. So they found some interesting things in Turkey, southeast part of Turkey. So we should be we should be ready to read some information regarding that. Now what we're gonna do, we're not gonna start reading the paragraph just yet. We're gonna go to the question, see what kind of questions we are dealing with, make a strategy, and then start reading the paragraph. So questions are on the right hand side. So questions 28 to 33. So we have total 28 to 40 questions. So this means this is first set of questions. So the text has 6 sections A to F. So from this it's quite clear that we have 6 paragraphs. Choose the correct heading. So this is the list of headings. So what we have to do is for the first section, like section A, we will read this particular section and then try to find out which heading suit the best. Clear? Then for 34 to 37, the second type of questions, we have again summary. So that's in simpler terms blank. So again, this is the most important thing to understand. We have to write one word only. Tushan's lower town. So in this particular blanks will be in the paragraph, or will start from the paragraph where this information is given. Tushan's lower town. So wherever there is information mentioned about lower town, so we will start reading about these particular blanks. Clear? And for 38 to 40 we have MCQs. Let's change the color. So for 38 to 40, we have to pick one letter out of the 4 letters A, B, C, or D. So we have to pick one letter out of them. Let me do this. Yeah. So we have to pick one letter out of these given 4. So what we're going to do is, now we know. So for these, we will read a paragraph. So we will make a strategy. Now what we're going to do is, we're going to read a paragraph. Okay, then we will try to find, or we will find which option suits the best to this particular paragraph. Okay, and then we will see if there is any information related to Tushan's lower town. If there is, we're going to read this particular blank, and then we're going to read the 38th question and see whether there is any mention about this. So we have to, what do we learn about the ancient city of Tushan? So if there is any mention about ancient city of Tushan, we will read this particular question then. I hope it is clear. If there is any doubt, don't worry. When we will do this along with me, you will get more information regarding this, and it will become clear to you after reading the a paragraph how are we solving this particular section. So what we're going to do now is, we're going to go through the list of headings. I will try to make sure that you understand these headings, if there is any similarity or difference between 2 or more headings. So what we're going to do is, we're going to start reading the headings now. First, defenses which proved inadequate. So whichever section contains that the defense forces, maybe the army or the arsenal, what they had, whatever the information is regarding their defense, their army, it was inadequate. Inadequate means insufficient, not adequate. So whatever they had in their defense department, it was not sufficient to protect them from invaders, from outsider attack. Whatever the information is, whatever the attack is, from wherever, from whomever, the defense, to protect themselves, it was not adequate, not sufficient. Second, why Tushan's governors were so important. So in whichever section there is mention about Tushan's governors and their importance to that particular place, that will be the answer too. Third, an approaching force of a different type. So there is some kind of force which is approaching this particular part of the world country, like obviously Turkey, and this particular force is of a different type, like it has a kind of power which was never seen before, something like that maybe. Fourth, a detailed description of one building on the site. So it's quite self-explanatory. So there will be a building on the site, and this section will contain detailed description, like how it looks, what kind of area, in like the area it has, maybe the interior, something about the exterior, the architecture. So these kind of details may be given in that particular section. Fifth, an important link in the chain of defenses. So there will be something important linking part in the chain of defenses, like a thing that links one part of defense to other part of defense, and that link is important obviously. Sixth, how domestic buildings in the lower town were furnished. So this is something about, in the whatever section there is mention about domestic buildings, like local buildings, and how they are furnished, or they were furnished in lower town. So that section will be that section will have 6 as its answer. Seventh, the main reason for the archaeological investigations. So the investigations began, there will be some kind of reason for this, maybe government gave some kind of prize money for the investigation, to like if somebody found this particular kind of thing, the government may give some prize for that, or there may be some other reason why the investigations began. So there will be some kind of reason given. Eighth, where the trade deals were done. So where basically it means place. So there may be place given where the trade deals were done, like at a place all the deals were done, or this particular location the deals were done under the guidance of, under the presence of this particular thing or person. I hope all the options are clear, like what kind of information is needed for a particular option to be the answer. So what we're going to do is we're going to read the A paragraph, and after reading the A paragraph, I'm going to give you around 10 seconds to tell me from 1 to 8 which is the answer to this. So let's read the A paragraph. It's a sad fact of archaeological life that we can often only find things when they are about to be lost forever. So they are saying that it's a sad fact that archaeologists, or they often find things when that particular thing is about to be lost forever. So that particular thing is about to disappear. Construction of it's a sad fact. So that let me change the color. It's a sad, you can say, fact that they only find things, okay, when they're about to lose, they're about to be lost forever. Construction of the Lucy Dam on the river Tigris in the southeast Turkey is now complete, and the flooding of 300 square kilometer of land behind it has begun. So this particular dam on this particular river is now complete. So the construction is complete, and this amount of area will be flooded. The dam will provide much needed water and electricity to the local region, but it will flood up to 500 archaeological sites. So what as I have told in my previous video as well, so everything has some positive and negatives attached to it. So the positive of that, but this particular dam is it will provide much needed water and electricity to the local region. Okay, let me do this. But the negative is it will flood up to 500 archaeological sites. So it So there are two sides to the coin, obviously. However, its construction has also provided a great opportunity to learn about the past of this region, because when the dam was proposed in the early 1990s, the government invited teams of local and international archaeologists to work in the Tigris Valley upstream of Ilsu to recover as much as they could before the dam was completed. So they're saying that, however, so this is the negative, but the construction, it provided great opportunity. Why? Because when government decided to make this particular dam, they invited archaeologists that before we lose everything, try to recover as much as possible. Clear? So here they're saying that, so it's provided a great opportunity. So when the dam was proposed, government invited teams of local and international archaeologists, so they can uh, recover as much as they could do. The result was a series of intensive survey projects. So, what was the result of this particular step of the government? It resulted in intensive survey projects, followed by more than 20 excavations, which amazingly came across places with archaeological remains ranging from deep prehistory to Ottoman period. The area to be flooded is now best studied archaeological landscape in eastern Turkey. So they did more than 20 excavations at that particular place. So what is excavation? Digging of that particular place, and because of that they discovered lot of remains. So remains basically meaning the remaining pieces of things that were used in that particular point, and these pieces belong to deep prehistory to the Ottoman period. So this area, because it is being flooded now, so the government invited, so it became the best studied archaeological landscape in eastern Turkey. So because of this particular thing, it became the best studied part of the Turkey. I hope this paragraph is clear. Now you have around 10 seconds to tell me, for section A, question number 28, from 1 to 8, which option is the answer, and the time starts now. Time's up. So if you need more time, you can pause the video and you continue when you're ready with your answer. So now what we're sorry about that. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna read the options and see which is the best suited for this. Defenses which proved inadequate. So is there any information about defenses that were not adequate? There is no mention about that. Why Dushan's governors were so important? Is there any mention about governors and their importance? No. And approaching forces of a different type. Is there any mention of something is approaching, coming, and it's never seen before, or it's a completely different to what is normal? Nothing like that. A detailed description of, there is any detailed description of one building? No. An important link in chain of defenses. Is there any mention about this? No. How domestic buildings in the lower town were furnished? Is there any mention about the domestic buildings in lower town and how they were furnished, like what kind of furniture they had? Again, no. The main reason for the archaeological investigation. Is there any reason given for archaeological investigations? Yes. This is our answer. Let me mark. So our answer to this particular is 7. Where it is written, where is the mention of that particular reason? Here, let me mark it. So here is the reason why archaeological investigation began, because government, they decided to make a dam in on this particular place, so they wanted to recover as much evidence as possible of the history. I hope it is clear. Now Moving on to the next, let's read the last option as well. Where the trade deals were done. Is there any mention about trade deals or the place where trade deals were done? No, there is no mention about that also. So seventh is our answer. Now, do you think there is any mention of Tushan's lower town, or do we need to read about this again? No. So we don't have any information regarding that. So we will move to the next set of questions. 38th. What do we learn about the ancient city of Tushan? Is there any mention about ancient city of Tushan? Again, no. So we don't need to read about this. So we only have one answer in this. That is question number 28. So what we're going to do now is we're going to read paragraph B. Okay. One of the biggest Ilsu Dam salvage excavation was at the side of Zeret Tape, an imposing mound rising 22 meters above the plain, within which lies the ancient Assyrian city of Tushan. So, I believe I am butchering the names, but I am extremely sorry if I am mispronouncing the name. So, we'll continue with this now. So, they're saying that the biggest, this particular salvage excavation was the site, this is the name of the site where the biggest excavation held of an imposing mound rising 22 meters above the plain of, okay, so the mound that was like dug there or something like that was 22 meters above the plain, the surface, within which lies the ancient city of Assyrian city of Tushan. Tushan. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna just read this small paragraph. Okay, we're gonna read the complete one. So it's quite small. Tushan was a provincial center which guarded the northern border of the mighty Assyrian Empire for almost 300 years. So they're saying that this was the center that guarded the northern border of this particular mighty empire for 300 years. It never approached the grandeur of the Assyrian capital Nineveh, but it was part of the Assyrian network of imperial control which imposed authority over conquered regions. So they're saying that though it never approached the grandeur of this particular capital Nineveh, so it never reached the status of this particular capital. Nonetheless, it was part of this particular network of imperial control which they posed over their conquered regions. Tushan was home not just to Assyrian settlers but to deportees from all over the empire. So this particular place, it was home. People called it home. What kind of people? Not only the settlers but also the deportees, like people who were deported from the other parts of the empire, who had been uprooted from their homelands as further means of subjugation. Clear? So these people also called this part of the country their home. Clear? Now again you will have around 10 seconds to tell me from option 1 to 8 which is the answer. Time starts now. Okay, time's up. Let's read the options together. Defenses which proved inadequate. Is there any mention about that? Yeah, there is mention about defense, okay, regions, but there is no mention about that it was inadequate. So it cannot be our answer. Why Tushan governors were so important? There is no mention about governors or their importance. And approaching forts of a different type. Is there any mention about that? Again, no. Detailed description of one building. Is there any mention about one particular building? Again, there is no mention like that. An important link in the chain of defenses. Is there any mention about something that link the chain of defenses? That is important part of the defense. Yes, there is. So our answer to this option is, question is option 5. Let me first mark it. An important link in the chain of defenses. Where it is? So here guarded the northern part. So they are saying that this particular this particular place it guarded, though it was not as its status was not as important as the capital, but it like was used to control the conquered regions. So for as the defense part, for as the defense aspect, it was quite important. That's question 29. If you look at the other options, domestic buildings in the lower town, there is no mention of this particular thing, and there is no mention of trade deals done. So the best option suited for this is fifth important link in chain of defenses. I hope it is clear. Now let's move on to the next set of questions. Is there any mention about Tushan's lower town? Again, there is no mention about that. Is there any mention about ancient city of Tushan? Yes, there is mention about Tushan. So do not get confused about this. So ancient city of Tushan here they have paraphrased Tushan as an ancient city. Clear? So let's read the options first. It was built in an area which the Assyrians had taken over. So they are saying that, let me change the color first. So they are saying that this particular place, it was built in an area which these people had taken over. Like this area belonged to someone else, but they took over that area from those people. So if that is the case, A will be our answer. B, it was an impressive city of the same size as Nineveh. So we have already read about that. This city is same in size. Let me do this. Same size as Nineveh, then B will be our answer. See, it was situated in the middle of northern region of Assyria. So if it's in the middle of this particular region of Assyria, C will be our answer. D, it was inhabited mainly by Assyrian soldiers and their families. So the main people living there were Assyrian soldiers and their families. If that is the case, D will be our answer. So we obviously, this is the paragraph where Assyrian and Nineveh is given. So you will have around 10 seconds to tell me this answer, and the time starts now. Okay, time's up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the option, mark the correct option, then we will discuss why that is our answer, where it is written, and why other options are not our answer. So which option have you marked, A, B, C or D? And the correct answer is yes, option A. It was built in an area which the Assyrians had taken over. So let me first mark it. So here they are talking about Tushan, and here is their remaining answer. So let me change the color for this. So here they are clearly saying it was part of the Assyrian network of imperial control which imposed authority over conquered regions. So conquered regions means basically those regions where Assyrians had taken control of by force, by invading, by defeating the people living there, by defeating the kings of those particular places. So those places are called conquered places. So if somebody conquered some place, basically they captured that place by defeating the ruler of that particular place, king of that particular place. Clear? So let's see. If I talk about B, it was same size. There is no mention about size. So they're saying that it never approached the grandeur of Assyrian capital. So if it was not as it doesn't have the status of this, so we don't have any information about the size here. Middle, there is nothing mentioned about the middle of the northern region of Assyria, so we don't know about that. D, it was inhabited by Assyrian soldiers and their families, mainly by this. No, we know it was by Assyrian settlers and the deportees from all over the empire, all over the empire. So these people call it home, not mainly the soldiers and their families. So D cannot be our answer. I hope it is clear. Let's move to the next section, section C. Okay, section C. Now I'll give you some tip for this particular type of section. Now you see they have two big paragraphs in them, so it's quite a big section. What we're gonna do is we're gonna read the first part of this particular paragraph. Then I will give you 10 seconds. Tell me whether there is any answer in there or not, and then if we find it or not, it doesn't matter. Then we will read the second part of the paragraph. Then I will give you again 10 seconds to confirm whether if we find answer here, whether the answer you are gonna stick to the same answer or you want to change your answer. Clear? Let's read this. Archaeological work at the Ziyarat Tepe began in 1997. So now they're saying that the work it began in 1997 and ran for 18 years, and the work continued for 18 long years. The results of all those long hot summers in the field are now finally ready to be presented with the publication of the project's first book. Now they are ready to present their work. Okay, they are ready to publish their work. It provides the most complete picture of an Assyrian imperial town yet known. So it will provide the complete picture or the most complete picture yet known of this particular town yet known. So in future maybe we will have more complete picture, but till date it will be the most complete picture. It includes a mass of information on the governor's palace at Tushan, which sat on the eastern side of the high ground. So it will have information on the governor's palace, that is in Tushan obviously, and it is on the eastern side of high mount. It was built under King Ashurnirpal II, sorry if I'm mispronouncing, obviously I'm mispronouncing it, who boasted about its construction in an inscription found not far away. So this particular person was boasting about it, like praising about himself, that he built this particular magnificent palace in an inscription that was found not far away from this particular palace. Unlike Ashurnirpal's magnificent palace at Nimrud, Tushan's provincial palace had no raised stone carving of historical figures. So they are saying that unlike this particular palace at Nimrud, Tushan's palace, it doesn't have any stone carvings of historical figures. Instead, its white plastered walls were decorated with finely painted geometric patterns in blue, red, orange and black. So instead of historical figures, this was found on the walls. The reception suite was equipped with the trackway for a movable heating brazier with neatly tiled bathrooms and giving it a touch of luxury. So they're saying that the reception suite it was equipped with a trackway for movable heating brazier with neatly tiled bathrooms that gave it a touch of luxury. I hope it is clear, this particular part of the paragraph. Now you will have around 10 seconds to tell me whether there is any answer you find in this particular paragraph or not, and time starts now. Okay, time's up. So let's read the options together and see whether we find any answer here or not. First, defenses which proved in is there any mention of defenses that were inadequate? No. Tushan's governors were so important. Is there any mention about Tushan's governors' importance? No. There is mention about something about the governor. Let's see where it was. So governor's palace, here it is written, but there is no mention about why the governors were so important. So do not get confused. An approaching force of a different type, is there any mention about that? Again, no. A detailed description of one building on this site, is there any mention about detailed description of particular building? Yes, there is. So let me first mark the answer here, and for this our answer will is option 4, where it is mentioned. Yes. Mm, from here to here, so you can see. So this, what does this particular building had? Let me mark this. Question 30. I hope it is clear. So let's see if there is any other answers here or not. Is there any mention about Tushan's lower town? No, so we don't need to read this particular question just yet. And 39th, why do archaeologists consider the burials under the palace significant? Is there any mention about burials? Again, no. So we don't need to read this also. Clear? So let's read the next paragraph. The remains of some of the governors themselves may have been found. So they're saying that in this particular place the remains, so obviously the maybe the bones, the skeletons or something like that, of the governors themselves, so of the governors may have been found. Okay, under the paving of the under the paving of the palace, 5 intact burials of human ashes were excavated. So they have found 5 intact burials of human ashes during excavation. Whether or not these were the governors of Tushan, they were certainly important people whose bodies had been burnt on beds with ivory fittings and provided with bronze balls, lamps, and ornaments. So they are saying that whether or not, we don't know whether or they were governors of Tushan or not, but we do know that they were important people. Why we know about that? Because their bodies were burnt on beds with ivory fittings, and they had bronze balls, lamps, and ornaments with that particular at that particular place. Intriguingly, cremation was not an Assyrian practice, and these burials suggest that Tushan's ruling elite had either adopted local customs or were not themselves Assyrians. So they said it's quite intriguing, interesting that cremation, it was not Assyrian practice. So these people didn't like cremate their bodies, burn the bodies, but these burials, obviously these bodies were cremated. So it suggests that either these elite or the people at the top level, they either adopted the local customs or they were not Assyrians themselves. So there's something, they came from some other place, or there's something missing in the history. Clear? Again, now I'm giving you 10 seconds to tell me whether you are going to stick with this particular option number 4, or do you want to change it to something else. And the time starts now. Okay, time's up. So do you want to change? Let's read the options again. If we think something is different, defenses, no, we do, obviously we know there is no mention about that. Tushan governors were so important. Yeah, there is mention about the governors and important people, but there is no mention about why governors were so important. Like what importance did they hold? Did they held? Okay, like they were powerful people, they were intelligent, most intelligent people. We don't know why they were important in simpler terms. So this is not an option. An approaching force, we don't know about that. In this paragraph there is no mention of that. Description, yes, we have read about that. So 6, domestic buildings, lower town, there is no mention of lower town, there is no mention of trade distance. So we have confirmed that our answer to this will be option 4, a detailed description of one building on the site. Clear? Now 34, is there any mention of Tushan's lower town? No, so there is no use of reading it right now. 39th, why do archaeologists consider burials under the palace significant? Is there any mention of burials here? Yes. So now you will have around 10 seconds. Okay, we'll read the options together, then I will give you the time. A. Assyrian cremations did not generally include any bronze balls. So this particular practice, it generally did not include any bronze ball. What happened here? Okay, so if that is the case, A will be our answer. B, they indicate that some governors may have been foreigners. So some governors were foreigners. If that is the case, B will be our answer. The furniture that was found there was unusual for the period. Anything regarding to furniture that was unusual, that is our answer. They were the only bodies that were excavated in Tishan. If the governors, if the burials were the only bodies that were excavated in Tushan, then D will be our answer. So for this, this is our paragraph, and you have around 10 seconds. Tell me the answer to this. The time starts now. Okay, time's up. So let's read the questions together now. First, sorry about that. First, what I will do is I will mark the correct option, and then we will see why that is our correct option and why other options are not our answer. And correct option is, which one have you marked? A, B, C, or D? Yes, B. B is our correct answer. Now we're gonna see why this is our answer. First, I'm gonna mark it. So here it is written. So cremation was not the Assyrian practice, and these barrels suggest that Tushan's ruling elite either adopted this or were not themselves Assyrians. So that is our answer. So let's see. A. Assyrian did not generally include this. There is mention about that there were bronze balls. Here it is written. So these were provided with this. So that's why they were important people. So that's why we know they were important people, but we don't know what generally happened in Assyrian cremations. And second thing, Assyrians did not cremate their bodies. Maybe they buried or something else, but they did not cremate their bodies. So this cannot be our answer. There is no mention of furniture that was unusual, so obviously C is ruled out. Similarly, we do not know whether on these apart from these bodies any other bodies were found or not. So they have said 5 intact burials of human ashes were excavated, but what about human remains that were not intact? But what about burials that were not intact? We don't know about that. So D cannot be our answer. I hope it is clear. So 40th in section. Okay, so for 40th we don't have to worry because this answer will be in section F. That is the last section of this particular text. So we will come back here then. Now we're going to read the D section. So D is only one paragraph long, so obviously we're gonna read it the whole. To the south of the high mount, Tushan had a substantial lower town. Okay, now there is mention of lower town. So to the south of the high mount, there is substantial lower town, and this is where the real work of the city took place. And this at this particular place, the real work of the city took place. Whatever the work is here, it took place. Over many seasons, the excavation team uncovered a series of sizable structures, all set around large courtyards paved with beautiful black and white mosaics made of thousands of small plain black or white pebbles collected from local riverbeds. So over many seasons, like over many years, the excavation team, they uncovered sizable structures, and they looked like this. Most were high status homes, but one had more complex functions. So most of them were high status homes, but one, they found it had more complex functions. The entrance chamber to this building yielded hundreds of tiny tokens in a range of forms, standing for different numbers and commodities. So what was there? The entrance chamber, it had like hundreds of tiny tokens in the form of, like, maybe there is token for different commodities if you want to like do something like that. These are thought to have been used for keeping records as merchandise and people passed in and out. So why these tokens were used? This is the case so that they can keep record of merchandise and people that went in and went out. The administrative function of the building was confirmed when an archive of 28 tablets with cuneiform writing was found. So this particular administrative function of the building, it was confirmed when they found archive of 28 tablets with cuneiform writing on it. These include list of different personnel, but most concern the movement of barley. So they had different kind of personnel in the list had, but most of them were connected with or concerned with movement of barley. These transactions are visible throughout the building in the form of standardized weights and huge jars to keep it. This building was the commercial and administrative center of Tushan. So this particular building, it was commercial and administrative center of Tushan. I hope this is clear. Now I'm going to give you around 10 seconds. Tell me the answer to question 31, section D. The time starts now. Okay, time's up. Let's read the options together. First, defenses which proved is there any mention about defenses those were inadequate? No. Tushan governor's importance? Again, no. Approaching forts of different type? Again, there is no mention about that. Fourth, fifth, we have done. Six, domestic buildings in the lower town were furnished and how they were furnished. Yes, there is mention about lower town, but there is no mention about how the buildings were furnished. There is only mention about one particular building in general. So our answer to this particular question is option 8. Let me mark this now. Okay. Now, can you tell me where it is written where the trade deals were done? Yes, in the last sentence itself. So, okay, what happened here? Yeah. This building was the commercial and administrative. So, commercial where basically trade is there. So, that particular place is called commercial place where business is conducted. So, let me write here first. It's question 31. I hope it is clear why this is the answer, why 8th is the answer to question 31. Okay, now let's look at the other sets of questions. Now, Tushan's lower town. Is there any mention of Tushan's lower town here? Yes, there is. Let me change the color first. Now we're going to do is we're going to read the question and see if there is location here or not. Here it is written, lower town. Below the mount where governor's palace stood was a large lower town. Yeah, there is mention about lower town here. Sorry about that. Archaeologists found some houses of considerable size there which had spacious courtyards in the middle. These had attractively patterned blank on the floors. So they are saying that they found some houses that were of considerable size, like basically big houses, and they had spacious courtyards in the middle, and they had attractively patterned something on the floors. Let's see. Over the many seasons, execution uncovered series of sizable structures. So here they are talking about sizable structures. So obviously structures, basically it can be anything, it can be house also. And they had large courtyards paved with beautiful black and white mosaics. Let me do this. Made of thousands of small collected from the local riverbeds. So our answer is in this particular sentence. Now you have around 10 seconds to tell me the answer and the time starts now. Okay, time's up and the answer to this question is Mosaics. Let me first write it, then I will explain. I hope you find this, but you arrived at this particular answer. If not, don't worry, I'm gonna explain it to you. Where, why this is our answer, how we arrived at this particular answer. So now here they are saying that these had attractively patterned blank on the floors. So instead of on the floors, they have said paved with beautiful black and white, made of this particular thing. So sorry about that. So paved, basically, do you know what pavement is? Yeah, pavement, you can say sidewalk or pavement. So the place, the place which is reserved for pedestrians to walk on the like highways or streets. So that is called pavement. Okay, so sidewalk. So obviously it's on the floor, obviously. So attractively patterned, beautiful black and white mosaics. So do you know what mosaics is? So it's like a pattern, like if you have seen if you've seen Hollywood movies or any movies in which is set in like the ancient period or old period. So they have buildings, or you can say, if you have seen buildings with glasses of different color, they have images of like eagles or other images made out of different colored glasses. Yeah, that's called mosaics. Clear? Let's see if there is any other answer here or not, because the paragraph is still a lot of paragraph remaining. Archaeologists discovered a large number of differently shaped artifacts in one building. So they found something in one building. They discovered a large number of very small dash which represented a variety of goods and quantities. So for this particular thing, they have say they're saying that they discovered a large number of very small. So do not get confused while reading this. They're saying that they have found a large number of something that was very small, basically maybe in size or whatever that thing is, but the counting was a lot. Like they may have found 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 small pieces. Clear? Pieces were small, but the quantity, that number was large, and it represented whatever they found. They represented variety of goods and quantities. So is there any mention of variety of goods and quantities? Let's read. Most were high status homes, but one had more complex functions. So one of the buildings, so here one of the complex functions, it is written. The entrance to this chamber building yielded hundreds of tiny tokens, range from standing different numbers and commodities. So here they are talking about quantities and goods. So commodities they have referred as goods, quantities numbers, variety of different. So obviously our answer is in these particular sentences, and you have 10 seconds or so to tell me. The time starts now. Okay, time's up. The answer to this question is yes, tokens. Let me do this. Just give me 1 second, guys. Let me mark this as our answer. This is question 35. Then I will explain why tokens is our answer. So here they have saying a large number of, and here they are saying hundreds of tiny. So large number of very small. So for very small they have paraphrased it as tiny, and large number of they have said hundreds of. So we have already established goods and quantities, numbers and commodities. Clear? So let's see if there is any other answer here or not. They were probably adopted by the townspeople. So these particular tokens, so they here refer to tokens. They were probably adopted by the townspeople, by the local people, to maintain dash of goods as well as men and women that entered and left the town. So yeah, we have read something about in and out. These are thought to have been used for keeping records as merchandise and people passed in and out. So goods and people passed in and out. So obviously our answer should be in this particular sentence. Let me do this. Just 1 second, guys. So merchandise and people passed in and out. So our answer is in this particular sentence, and you have around 10 seconds. The time starts now. Okay, time's up, and the answer to this question is records. I hope you everybody arrived at this particular answer. If not, don't worry, I'm gonna explain it to you why records is our answer, how we arrived at it, what words, where are the words written in the blanks here. So here they are saying townspeople, like adopted by townspeople, these are thought to have been used. So if something is used for doing something, so it has been adopted to do that particular thing. To maintain, for keeping. Records as merchandise and people passing in and out, entered and left the town. So we have already established that. I hope it is clear. Now, let's see if 37th is also here or not. Later, a number of inscribed tablets. So we have read something about tablets here. Yeah, 28 tablets. So let's read the question first. Later, a number of inscribed tablets were discovered which mostly recorded transport of something. So transport of particular thing. I think we know the answer what they were recording, but still, let's see. The administrative function of the building was confirmed when an archive of 28 tablets with cuneiform writing was found. So they have said that they found something, 28 tablets with this particular thing was found, and it was confirmed. These include lists of different personal but most concerned with the movement of barley. So they're saying that this particular thing, they were like more concerned with the movement of barley. Let me do this, and obviously our answer is in this particular sentence, from here to here. So you know the drill. The time starts now. Okay, time's up, and the answer to this question is barley. So it was quite straightforward, I believe. That's question 37. So if you were not able to identify the answer, don't worry, I'm going to explain it to you now. So here they have said recorded the transport of, here they're saying concerned with the movement of, transport of, here they're saying movement of particular thing, what, barley. So this trade was also evident in the remains of some enormous jars that were found which had been used for storage. So they are saying that standardized weights and huge jars to keep in it. So here did something about enormous jars. I hope it is clear. Now, do we need to read this particular question? No, because it's in F section. So we have only read about D till D. So we have done all these 34, 35, 36. So blanks, that's complete. These two questions and that one particular MCQ. Only 3 questions are remaining and 2 paragraphs are remaining. So these are not a big ones. So these are like okayish in length, you can say. So let's read the E paragraph now. The front, let me change the color first. The frontier character of the city, which stood on the border of hostile Shubria, is clear from the massive fortification which surrounded both the high mound and the lower town. So they are saying that this particular city's frontier character was obvious because of it stood on the border of, it shared the border, or like the border was close to this particular hostile area called Shubria, and it had massive fortification that surrounded both the lower town and the high mount. The mud brick city wall was 2 kilometers long and almost 3 meters thick, with a substantial ditch in front of it. So they had built a city wall, so that was 2 kilometers long and 3 meters thick, and on top of that, it had a substantial ditch in front of it. Despite these precautions, Tushan fell with the rest of the Assyrian Empire. So though there were a lot of these were there were a lot of precautions they took, still the Tushan fell. So fell means to say it was defeated by the enemy or something like that, with the rest of the Assyrian Empire. The imperial capital at Nineveh fell after a dramatic siege in 1612 BCE, after which the remaining Assyrian forces retreated steadily northwestward towards the site of the empire's last stand at the city of Haran. So they're saying that this particular city fell after the dramatic siege in this particular era, and then there steadily they went northwestward, and this was the last standing place in the path of the army of Medes and Babylonians. As they marched up the Tigris river lay Tushan. So these forces, they lay waste to the city of Tushan. I hope it is clear. You know the drill. You have around 10 seconds. The time starts now. Okay, time's up. Let's read the options together. Defenses which proved inadequate. Is there a mention about defense that was not sufficient to protect? Yes. So let's mark it now. So the answer to E option is 1. Where it is written here. So from the in the very beginning, so you can say the about here. So the massive fortification, they had almost this, and still despite all these precautions, the empire fell. So these precautions were not sufficient, adequate to save them from the pending doom. Yeah, 32. I hope it is clear. So do we need to read that particular question? No, because that is in F paragraph, we know. So we're gonna read the F paragraph now. So how many options are left? Second, third, and sixth. Eighth we have done. We cannot mark it because of some. So let's see. Now Tushan faces another threat. Now they're saying that now this is about present. This particular city faces another threat as the water from the Ilisu Dam advances along the same route as that used by the Medes and Babylonians 2600 years ago. Now the threat is from water that is coming from the dam. It is also using the same route that was used 2600 years ago. It remains to be seen to what extent the site will eventually be flooded, but even though its physical remains may be lost along with the other Ilisu sites, there is some consolation in the fact that a rich record of the town of Tushan, some of its history, its people and way of life is now preserved in the archives and publications of the Ziyarat Tepe project. So they're saying that we don't know, it remains to be seen, we don't know what is the extent of the flood, or the place will be flooded, how much place will be submerged underwater, we don't know it just yet, but there is some consolation. We can sleep thinking like this, that there is some consolation to us that we have preserved the record of this particular place. So I hope it is clear. Now you have around 10 seconds to tell me, out of second, third and sixth, which option suits the best. Time starts now. Okay, time's up. Let's read the options together. Second, why Tushan's governors were so important. Is there any mention about Tushan's governors' importance? No. Third, an approaching force of different type or domestic buildings in Lower Town. Is there any mention of domestic buildings of Lower Town? So again, no. So our answer to this should be third, an approaching force of a different type. And I will tell you why, where it is written. Can you tell me first where it is written approaching force of different type? So this is not our answer. This is not our answer. Yes, can you tell me? Yes. Here it is written. So 2600 years ago, Babylonians and Medes, they were the forces that destroyed this particular place. But now it's water. This is question. Which number? 33. So now it is water. So that is the force of a different type. I hope it is clear. Now moving on to the last question that is left. Question number 40. Let's read the question and option. Then I will give you 10 seconds again. In section F, what conclusion does the writer come up to? So now we have to talk about the conclusion that writer come up to. It is clear that Tushan will soon be completely underwater, that it will be completely underwater. If that is the case, A will be our answer. B, everything is now known about the history of thing. We know everything about the history, then B will be our answer. C, other sites will be researched through the Ziyarat Tepe project. If we are going to research other cities through this particular project, C will be our answer. It is likely that documents will be the only source of information of Tushan. If only documents will be the only source of information of Tushan left, then D will be our answer. Now you have around 10 seconds. Tell me the answer. The time starts now. Okay, time's up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the correct answer. Then we will see why that is the correct answer and why others are not. So what answer have you marked? A, B, C or D? Yes, our answer to this question is option D. It is likely that documents will be the only source of information. And from where it is written, let's say from here to here, from the complete thing, we can understand that only documents will be left. So now let me do this. So sorry about that. Let me drink some water, guys. Thank you for waiting. Now, so here they're saying that only documents will be left. So they have said that, yeah, we don't know how much this site will be flooded, but it is some consolation that we know about the rich record of this, its history, the way people live, and its people is in the archives and publications. So this only source will be the documents, the archives and publications. So it's possible it is the only source left because we don't know how much it will be flooded. So that's why likely word is very important here. Now A option cannot be our answer because we don't know whether it will be flooded completely or not. So it still remains to be seen. So remains to be seen how much it will be flooded. So A cannot be our answer. Everything we know, we don't know whether we know everything, but we know a lot of things, we do have a lot of information about this place, but we don't know whether we have everything here or not. And in the beginning they also told us we don't know everything also. So other cities project, we don't know about that. There is no mention that whether this project will cover other cities or not. So we cannot mark this for as answer. So D is our only sensible option. I hope it is clear. So we have done 38, 39, 40. Let's check. Have we done all the questions? Yes, we have done this and this. So this is how you should attempt these type of questions. You should attempt your reading module. In the beginning, again, I am telling you, it may take you more time than the allotted time of your 1 hour to solve your passages. But once your brain activate like this, once your brain learn to solve like this, it will increase its speed. You don't have to worry about that. But accuracy is the king. It doesn't matter whether you are doing 40 questions, but if you are only getting 20 right, you will be marked according to the 20. If you are let's just say if you're solving 34-35 questions and you are getting all the 34-35 correct, you will get marks according to that. Clear? So accuracy is the king. There is no doubt about that. So if there is any doubt, you can rewatch that part of the video again, and if still you're not able to understand anything, you can leave that doubt in the comment section. We will gladly answer that. And if you need our help in writing and or speaking, you can enroll in our video course, which we have made specially for students who are aiming for band 7 or higher. This course is so detailed that you will understand everything, all the do's and don'ts that you should take care of in your IELTS writing and or speaking, so that you can get a higher band score or your desired band scores. So if you want to do that, you can go in my bio to my, I will leave the link to my website in bio. You can go and directly purchase the course from that particular place. So that's it for this video. Then I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care and goodbye.